Welcome to this latest video from Phusion IM. Recently, Oil and Gas UK published its Digital Maturity Report, here it is here, with the aim of understanding attitudes, progress and challenges in digital transformation in the UK industry. Joining me to give their views on the report are Phusion IM Executive Chairman Steve Pearson and Neale Stidolph, Head of Information Management at Sword. Gentlemen, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Neale, starting with you, how important is this report to the adoption of more digitalisation within the oil and gas industry? What were your key takeaways?
Well, I was involved in how this thing was scoped, and it felt that several customers were saying, we're not sure where we are or how others are doing. And a lot of the industry bodies were saying similar. So we thought, well, let's get everyone to get an independent report from Deloitte. And they came out with this, so 100 or so participants. And I think that's really important. So the Oil and Gas Tech Centre, Oil and Gas UK, the Technology Leadership Board, Opportunity North East, all of these sorts of guys. So I think that puts a good stake in the ground to say, well, this is where you say you all are, and we'll dive into the issues arising from the report. So I think it gives everyone a good yardstick, and it helps people champion this cause in their businesses.
So from what people contributed to it, what do you think are the key issues that it raises?
Well, there's plenty of them there, and I'm sure those reading it will nod and say, yeah, we recognise those things. And strangely, they say the biggest blockers don't seem to necessarily be investment and technology. They're more about the state of data itself, how people trust it or not, and a lot to do with culture and behaviour. And views differ really, I think, between the leadership in these companies, the middle management and the information practitioners on the ground. So it's interesting to see why these people have different perspectives in the same organisations. So I think those are things that immediately jump out for me.
Steve, as a practitioner of data and digitalisation, how important do you think this report is to the oil and gas sector?
I think everybody will take out of it what they want. I mean, for me and our business, I think it's a trusted baseline. It's been put together by Deloitte, who are a recognised heavyweight in the industry. And I think it emphasised some of the key facts that those practitioners are aware of. And I'll just recite a couple quickly. It mentioned, obviously, that data is king. They're on about data being the foundation, which is well understood. It said, obviously, focus on the data and not the technology, which is a message that a lot of us agree with. It threw it about establishing a neutral data model and using APIs to connect to it, which is sound advice, which some of the super majors are getting on board with. I liked particularly the fact it said, spreadsheets may not be the answer. It would be great if everybody embraced that and got rid of the spreadsheets. And the other thing I found interesting is it seems to recognise that the journey is only 3 years old. So obviously we've got plenty of time to get to grips with the digitisation.
Obviously, you've been involved both of you have been involved in this area of the industry for a lot longer than 3 years. So are there any particular areas you felt that it's missed that could have greater detail at this stage, or maybe just a springboard for further discussion?
Yeah, I think there's a few things I've made a note of. One is it would have been nice if it had guided people to like proven case studies and people who've got it right, you know, because obviously it's one thing to suggest like, you know, what it can do, but where would I go, you know, if I needed help and who's actually done this successfully? That would have been useful. The fact that it suggests external organizations have no sort of trusted information, we find actually that's the opposite. Is we've got quality data that's been validated. We deal with like 5,000 OEMs. They've all got good data that they can offer operators. So I think that's, as I'll touch on later, that's a very strong and untapped resource. And the other thing I think it didn't touch on, it obviously said that collaboration is not really successful. You know, it's rare to see examples. And maybe they could cover why that's the case. Because we've been involved with like Ampelius on a spares rationalization, and we sort of understand why and how organizations don't get engaged. They seem to get a blessing from the top, but as soon as it goes down the chain, the initiative becomes diluted. So I think maybe addressing why collaboration doesn't work and what can we do about it to make it more successful.
Neale, do you think, why do you believe that the industry has maybe not been as quick to adopt digitalisation and this report is needed in the way it is to get things moving?
That, I guess, refers back to an earlier point about different perceptions. So sometimes the leadership think it's great because they've got some dashboard showing them some things, but how much knowledge and insight is it really bringing to the fore? So how much is it really practically helping people? And they might think that making forms online, digitally signing things is going digital. Well, it is, but it's not what we refer to as digitalization, which is actually changing the way you work. So we want it to be far more intuitive. And I think in the recent circumstances we've seen, we're far from the status quo. So we're looking at how you can operate rigs with minimal or zero manning, how we can get rid of those helicopter flights. It's safer, it's cheaper. We can use virtual control rooms. So when we've been forced into the situation, I think people are now seeing, even since the report was written, these things are deriving real practical benefits, saving quite a lot of money and helping operations.
So the engineering technology that's put in place when you're running an asset, a rig, or whatever is very forward thinking. In terms of how they actually extract energy from the ground and the seabed, all that sort of stuff. But it feels that there may be some resistance to embracing this type of technology in the industry. Is there a block between engineers and embracing digitalization?
Do you want me to answer that? I think I made a few pointers. I think from our personal experience, I think a lot of the engineers and operators actually need support building a business case. We often assist with a business case, and it proves very hard to get metrics out of operators. They don't really think about the cost of doing business and what a man-hour costs and the cost of stock. So I think that if we can give more support to help people understand there is a proven business case, to adopt this technology, that would help. I think the other reason why it's been slow to adopt is they've had too many IT projects with a focus on technology, with less experience or less work and investment in the data. And I've actually made a comment here. I think they keep paying for data movement instead of improvement. So they're happy to move data from one system to another, but they don't tend to improve it. So I think if we get into those sort of realms, then I think they'll get more success and hopefully, do more and more in the digital world. And I think my other view is the reason that adoption's been slow is that the people barriers. People have got to start to trust those that have actually got the experience, and that way they maybe make more progress.
When we look at people's information, they have information in a form, but it's maybe laying dormant for a long time. So this is mostly applicable in the subsurface world. So we see seismic shoots that were done sometimes decades ago. And particularly if new operators take over a field, reinterpreting that, so digitizing it, being able to look at it with modern tools has allowed them to do new exploration on old fields and extend their life. So we've been engaged in a lot of that, bringing the data up to speed, and then allowing the tools to be applied to those. And it could be the same with old assets, where old things are on paper and in different forms. So I think we end up doing a lot of the legwork ourselves, Phusion, on just bringing that up to standard so you can do something smart with it.
Thank you. Well, thanks, guys. That was really interesting. We're going to look a bit more in detail at other areas of this report in the next video. So look out for future videos from Phusion IM where we'll discuss the digital maturity report. Thank you.